Guys, we're almost there. Only 2 more weeks until UFC 308. I'm joking. It was actually not too bad of a card today at the Apex. Like we always say, we come into the Apex cards, especially when the card doesn't have too much talent. We come in with such low expectations that oftentimes, the performances really stand out and it can often be quite an exciting event. And tonight was another example. With that being said, we did have a lot of decisions on the main card. Not a lot of finishes. Exciting fights, like I said, but regardless, only one finish on the main card. Into that main event though, what a crazy exciting fight that was. Coming into the matchup, we thought, I did at least, Tatsuro Taira had a lot of advantages, especially on the ground, and quite a clear path to victory that way. This was another great example of showing a young kid who, although he's really talented, really special, just isn't polished enough to beat a veteran with someone who has so much experience at this level, like Brandon Royval. You heard him call out on the microphone after the win that he's beaten every single guy inside the top 5. That is a crazy statistic to have. Although he's fought and lost to the champion twice, so it doesn't create necessarily a whole lot of hype to see that matchup again. The fact that he can lay claim to beating every single contender in the top 5 is absolutely crazy. He wants a shot at the champion again. I say give it to him at this point. After a performance like that, the young, hungry, up-and-coming, undefeated talent in the UFC, I think he deserves it. He really did the UFC a favor accepting a matchup like that. So let's see him have another crack. Although, like I said, there's not going to be heaps of hype on the matchup. I think if there's some new blood with the Japanese kid coming in, who wouldn't want to see that fight? So like we said, stylistically, it was a really interesting clash. Brandon Royval really surprised me and impressed me with his grappling tonight. His grappling transitions, how slick he is with it, it's so amazing to watch. And personally, it's some of my favorite stuff to see in martial arts. All of martial arts. Someone flowing. We talked about in this matchup, Brandon Royval, beforehand, his authenticity, how he can mix it all together and flow, be creative in there. And we really saw that tonight. He's a guy who fights, he has a game plan coming in, but you can tell it's moment to moment for him in there. He's reacting, not necessarily in a negative way, but just reacting and feeling out the fight as it unfolds in front of him. And I absolutely love watching guys like that. Brandon Royval, I think you're one of my favorite guys to watch in that whole division. Just like I said, your creativity, how he's able to mix it up, not only on the feet, but on the ground, keep the fight moving as well. It's an absolute fan's delight. And Brandon Royval tonight reminds everyone that he's up here, man. And although he's lost to the champ, like we've said a couple of times, is only losing to the best of the best. Again, showed us why he is an absolute killer at this top of the division. The odds gave him no respect coming into the matchup. He's sort of put a little bit of a check to the hype train in Taira. But what can you say about Taira? For his first 5-round main event, the kid put out an absolutely amazing showing for himself. At the end of the 3rd round, he looked absolutely done, exhausted. He had the ability, the capacity to dig deep and fight for another 10 minutes really hard, winning great positions in those next 10 minutes, For as young as that guy is, his grappling and how polished his control is on the ground, it's really, really impressive. And a performance like this, a result like this, especially losing a split decision to one of the top dogs in the division, can you imagine what that's going to do to the hunger and the drive of this young kid? Already he had that in tenfold, but it's going to be crazy, I think, to see his next fight. And I really honestly feel bad for whoever has to fight him next because they're going to get their arm snatched. So Brandon Royval puts a bit of a stop to the hype of Tatsuro Taira, reminding us all why he is who he is in this division. Hats off to Brandon Royval. Incredible performance. I did think he won going to the judges' cards. Although it was a split decision, very close fight, he had to really dig deep himself. In the end, he came out on top. He used that experience, that veteran creativity, just moving and reacting to the fight, like we said, how he needed to position. Because he said at the end of the fight that he came in expecting to be one and done. He thought he'd wash this kid. So for him to have as much resistance as he did and to come through, absolute warrior. So yeah, 3 split decisions on this card. Jung Yong Park gets another win in this division. Brad Tavares, a veteran. We talked about that coming in. The guy's had how many fights now in the UFC? He doesn't win them all, but he's really, really great benchmark test for, the edge of that top 15 sort of range. Jung Yong Park came in. Wasn't the most exciting fight necessarily, but he did what he had to do to pick up the victory and move forward in a super competitive division. What am I saying though? Every single division in the UFC is competitive. Chidi Njokuani, I hope I didn't butcher that name. Chidi Bang Bang. The guy is so exciting to watch. As a striking fan, although this fight spent a lot of the time in the clinch, his knees, his elbows, his ability to control people in the clinch, in the Thai plum, just shows you how much time and experience he has in that position. Jared Gooden is a big, strong guy, throws big, wild, sort of looping shots. Njokuani put him in the clinch and hurt him. Won every single round on the judges' scorecard. Some of those knees to the body were so brutal. And even when he was taken down, he looked really good. Kept popping back up, reversing the position, has shown improvements, in the spots where he's been lacking. Obviously, the guy's a phenomenal kickboxer. It's been the grappling which has let him down in the past. And tonight, he did a really, really good job of showing those improvements in a weight class which I think is more suited to him. Although you can tell he's cutting a lot of weight, he was just getting manhandled up at middleweight. So it's good to see him, although it wasn't the most exciting fight necessarily, did exactly what he needed to completely shut down Gooden's game. As a clinch appreciator myself, a big fan of Muay Thai, he had some really, really slick knees and elbows in that position. This was the performance of the main card for me in terms of dominance. Grant Dawson comes in. I thought this fight was going to be more competitive, Rafa Garcia, yes, he's had losses in the UFC in the past, but the guy's a workhorse, trains with a really good team. Gaethje, Gaethje, if you're training with him, you're ready for a fight in the UFC lightweight division. Grant Dawson, he comes from an amazing team as well, getting great training and sparring down at American Top Team. His specialty, his grappling, his ability to get the fight to the ground is absolutely beautiful. He has some of the slickest grappling in this whole division. In terms of control, his ability to get the fight to the ground, it's, apart from the champion, it's pretty much second to none. Gamrot, another real good wrestler in that division, who he actually trains with, funnily enough. Grant Dawson continued to show improvements. Once he got the fight to the ground, was able to get into a position of control, the ground and pound that he was dropping on Rafa Garcia was absolutely brutal. There's a difference, like we always talk about, between grapplers who can make things exciting, not only exciting, but damaging on the ground. And that's where the excitement comes from. Bloodied him up with brutal shots. You could tell he wanted to get him out of there. He wasn't just grappling for control. Once he'd established the control, he started going to absolute town. Those were beautiful ground and pound shots by Grant Dawson. A guy who's really impressed me in the past continued to do that and show his evolution. The guy is a sponge, and you can tell, even in between rounds, he's there very vocal, talking to his corner. He really, really loves the game. He has a great record now. He's been building. Yes, he had the setback to Bobby Green. But once he finds the confidence to put it all together, has a few more results like this, he's going to be a real handful in an absolute killer's row of a division. Because yes, His striking isn't the most polished, but he has that specialty that if he can get you to the ground, it's going to be absolute trouble. Now, him showing us how damaging he can be on the ground, not only with the threat of the submission and control. Grant Dawson, super, super impressive tonight. D-Rod, one of my favorite guys at 70. I don't know what it is about the guy that I'm so drawn to. Probably him smoking weed all day and his 200-0 prison record. I don't know, he's just such a likable guy, and his fight style is really, really slick too. He had a really hard first round tonight against Morono. The odds were really wide. Morono, yes, he was coming in on short notice. He hasn't looked the best in his last two performances, but I was quite surprised to see the odds so wide. D-Rod really struggled on the feet in the first round, kept getting tagged by that big looping overhand, kept getting sort of stunned by that, and kept reaching. I don't know. I haven't seen him do that so much in the past, but his defense looked really off in that first round. He slowly started to find the range in the second and third, putting his boxing combinations together. Another split decision. I wasn't so sure about that. I thought he won that fight pretty comfortably. And I think D-Rod needed to win that fight, had a really frustrating performance against Kelvin Gastelum in his last one out. So it'll be good for his confidence back in the winning ways against, a good guy, even on short notice. Morono's, been in the UFC for a long time and beaten some really good guys. He's a bit hot and cold like D-Rod, but D-Rod's striking, his range management, his combination boxing was enough to get him the victory tonight. Ramazan Temirov, I've definitely absolutely butchered that one again. But the guy debuting, beautiful boxing combinations. He got Vergara hurt, and Vergara has wobbled before and done the chicken dance in the UFC, but he stayed patient. He knew Vergara could still be dangerous from those spots, but what did he do? He went to the body. You can't defend your body when you're rocked like that to the head, and it was all over. That's a great debut, and the guy looks really, really put together, which you love to see for a debuting fighter in the UFC. So let's keep rolling in a division that's pretty shallow, like you're seeing a debuting fighter getting a title shot in that division. So really interested to see Ramazan's next fight in the UFC. Bring it on. Everyone slept on Pat Sabatini. The odds on this whole card were so off. Pierce, has been some really good guys, and Sabatini has, recently lost a couple. But Sabatini is a great grappler, training with a really great team. I think he trains with Sean Brady and all of those guys. And he's shown in the past how dominant he is on the ground. Pierce, he's really wild in the scrambles. He let Sabatini get to the back, and that was all she wrote. How strong does Sabatini look once he has a hold of you? The guy's short and stocky, but just an absolute powerhouse. And you must have forgot, because those odds were completely off. Sabatini just reminds everyone that he's here, and his grappling is not to be messed with at all. Junior Tafa fought an Uber driver tonight, and the Uber driver almost got him out of there at the end of the first round. Sean Sharaf, I don't know where they found this guy. He had Strickland and Eric Nixick, I believe, in his corner, but that guy is not ready for the UFC at all. Neither of these guys really are UFC level. How tired Sharaf was, in that second round was absolutely bizarre. And like I said, he almost had that fight finished. So Junior Tuffer, the guy has been more than exposed. All you need to do is take him down, and you pretty much have the clearest path to victory. Yes, he's, savage on the feet, but he's just too lazy, and you can tell like he's not been working that grappling as much as he needs to. It's not where it needs to be at all in the UFC. I would be very surprised if they give Sharaf another fight in the UFC, but we'll see. That was a real novelty one for me. Cody Haddon, if you don't know, now you know. For him to come in on debut against a guy who's, very, very skilled in Dan Argueta. He stopped how many takedown attempts tonight? Won all 3 rounds comfortably, and like he said at the end, he is never in a boring fight. That guy, he just dug deep. He dug deep and trusted the process. He says, no game plan, I'm coming here to fight. The Gladiators didn't have a game plan. I love watching Cody Haddon, seeing him come up on the Australian regional scene, doing what he did in the Contender Series, and now you guys are going to start putting some respect on that guy's name, because for him to have the composure to beat a guy like this on debut shows exactly how put together his skill set is. And I think Cody Haddon, I know this guy is going to do big things in this division. Yes, bantamweight, so tough. Maybe the toughest division in the UFC. But like I said, how complete Cody Haddon is, a performance like this is only going to give him so much more confidence in himself, to trust the process, trust the work that he's been putting in. It was a real treat to watch Cody Haddon's debut. So stoked for you, brother. And like I said, you're going to do some amazing things in this division. So I think they're going to give him, I think they're going to fast track him, because I think the UFC brass, they can see what I can see in this kid, how special he is. Hats off to you, brother. That was a great performance. I was sort of in and out of this card, to be honest, watching the Beterbiev and Bivol fight. If you guys didn't see that and you like a boxing fight, go and check that shit out, because that fight was fireworks. So I was sort of in that and back to the UFC, back to that. So got to go rewatch a few fights on the prelims. But I hope you guys enjoyed the card. Like I said, there were some really good fights, even though there was a lot of decisions on the main card. We complain about the Apex cards, and then we still get some crazy MMA fights. So what's not to love, hey? If you guys could like, comment, and subscribe, not only does it really help the channel, but I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So thank you so much, guys, and we will talk again soon.